In the last few years, while the world was watching Bill Gates talk about vaccines, climate, and the future of food, he was quietly doing something else. Buying America. Not the cities, not the tech, the soil. The actual dirt that feeds 330 million people. And the numbers that have now been confirmed are staggering. Bill Gates is the single largest private owner of farmland in the United States, 275,000 acres, spread across at least 17 states, bought through shell companies and investment vehicles so that for years, nobody even knew it was him. The man has never driven a tractor in his life, has never pulled a calf at 2 in the morning, has never watched a harvest fail, and wondered how he'll pay the bills. And he now owns more American farmland than anyone else on the planet. Meanwhile, 4,000 miles away, two men are doing the exact opposite. Jeremy Clarkson, Kaleb Cooper, 1,000 acres, and they actually farm it. Here is the difference between owning the soil and working it, and why it matters more than anyone realizes. Right, let's start with how Gates actually did this, because the method tells you everything. Most of the buying happened between 2017 and 2018 through an investment vehicle called Cascade Investment. Not Bill Gates the person, a company, a faceless financial entity that went around America buying farmland in enormous chunks. A $520 million deal with the Canada Pension Plan Investment Board. A $171 million purchase of farmland in Washington state. $113 million on 20,000 acres spread across 19 Nebraska counties. By the time anyone added it all up, the total spend was north of $690 million, and the soil belonged to one of the richest men on earth. The farmers who sold it mostly had no idea who the real buyer was. That is not farming. That is acquisition, treating the land that grows a nation's food the same way you treat a stock portfolio. Now here is the number that should stop you cold. 248,000 acres of that land is active, productive farmland. Louisiana, where Gates controls over 69,000 acres. Arkansas, where he holds around 47,000. Arizona, Washington, Florida, the Mississippi Delta, some of the most fertile ground in the entire country. And the man who owns it has openly said that rich countries should move to 100% synthetic beef, lab-grown meat. He said people in nations like America should stop eating real beef altogether. And here's the thing. The entire world that Clarkson and Kaleb come from, the proper British farming world, is built on the exact opposite belief, that a real steak and a proper pint come from real land, worked by real people, raising real animals, not grown in a vat by a corporation. So let's put those two facts side by side. The largest private owner of American farmland is also the loudest voice telling Americans to stop eating the food that farmland traditionally produces. You don't have to believe in any grand conspiracy to find that combination deeply unsettling. The questions ask themselves, and people did start asking. In Congress, a representative from South Dakota named Dusty Johnson formally demanded that Bill Gates testify before the House Agriculture Committee about his farmland purchases. He wrote a letter. He said the committee should not ignore how much American soil one man controls, especially given Gates's push for synthetic meat. Gates's response to all of this, when cornered in a public forum, was that he owns less than 1/4,000th of US farmland, that the decisions are made by a professional investment team, and that there isn't, in his words, some grand scheme involved. A professional investment team. Think about that phrase. The food-growing soil of America, managed by an investment team for a billionaire, optimizing for returns. That is the coldest possible relationship a human being can have with the land. Now let's go to Oxfordshire, because this is where the contrast becomes almost painful. Jeremy Clarkson owns 1,000 acres at Diddley Squat. That's less than half of 1% of what Gates owns. And Clarkson is on that land, in the mud. driving the tractor he can barely operate, failing at crops, arguing with Kaleb, losing money on sheep, getting up at dawn. The entire premise of Clarkson's Farm, the show watched by millions around the world, is a man learning how hard farming actually is, discovering that the people who grow our food earn almost nothing for breaking their bodies doing it. Clarkson didn't buy his land through a shell company to optimize a portfolio. He bought it, and then he got dragged into actually caring about it, about the soil, about the people who work it, about a way of life that billionaires like Gates treat as an asset class. If this is hitting you the way it hits me, share this video right now. Because this is the story nobody with a microphone is telling properly. One man treats farmland as a spreadsheet. Another treats it as a calling. And the difference between those two things is the difference between a country that feeds itself and a country that rents its food from billionaires. Hit share. And if you've got a hype left below this video, use it now. And listen, if you're new here, if you've watched this far and you're nodding along, do one thing. Subscribe, not for me, for the cause. Because every single person who subscribes to proper British farming is one more voice saying the soil should belong to the people who work it, not the billionaires who buy it. We're a small channel taking on the biggest empires on earth. The only weapon we've got is numbers. So if you believe farmers matter more than billionaires, hit subscribe right now and stand with us. Right. Back to it. Then there's Kaleb Cooper. And Kaleb is the answer to everything Bill Gates represents. Because Kaleb is what real farming actually looks like. He started doing agricultural contracting as a teenager, paying himself 50 pence an hour. He never went to university, never left his patch of Oxfordshire, and he built 3 businesses and a near £1 million empire by working the land with his own hands. Kaleb didn't inherit a fortune and deploy it through an investment vehicle. He drove tractors. He learned every field. He built a contracting business serving local farms one job at a time. When Kaleb wants to own a farm, and he does, it's his life's dream. He'll have earned every single acre through actual labor. That is the polar opposite of buying 69,000 acres of Louisiana through a pension fund deal you negotiated from an office. Here is the philosophical divide laid bare. Bill Gates sees farmland as a problem to be solved with technology, capital, and scale, synthetic meat, genetically optimized crops, centralized ownership managed by professionals, efficiency above all. To Gates, the farmer is almost an inconvenience, a middleman between the investment and the yield. Clarkson and Kaleb see farming as something else entirely. A relationship, a craft, a thing you do with your hands and your back and your heart, where the soil knows you and you know it, where the goal isn't maximum return, but a good harvest, a fair price, and a community that survives. One model needs no farmers at all. The other model is the farmers, and only one of those models has fed humanity for 10,000 years. Let's talk about what happens when soil becomes an investment, because this is the part that should worry every single person watching, whether you're in Britain, America, Australia, or anywhere else. When a billionaire buys 275,000 acres, the local farmers who wanted that land can't compete. They can't outbid a man worth over $100 billion. So the land consolidates. Fewer owners, bigger holdings, more distance between the people who own the soil and the people who work it. Young farmers, the Kalebs of America, get locked out entirely. Because how do you buy your first farm when the fertile ground is being hoovered up by investment vehicles paying cash? This is the quiet crisis. Not a dramatic one, a slow one. The transfer of the most basic resource on earth, the ground that grows food, from the people who work it to the people who simply own it. And the genius of Gates's approach, if you can call it that, is how invisible it was. No headlines when it happened, no announcement, just shell companies and investment boards and professional teams, quietly accumulating the soil of a nation while everyone argued about his other ventures. Compare that to Clarkson. who fights every single battle in public. Planning councils, enforcement notices, television cameras documenting every failure. Clarkson made farming visible, made millions of people care about where their food comes from and how badly the people who grow it are treated. Gates made his farmland empire invisible. One man dragged farming into the light, the other built his quietly in the dark. That contrast tells you which one respects the thing they're dealing with. So where does this leave us? Bill Gates owns 275,000 acres of American soil. He has never farmed a day in his life. He wants the world to eat synthetic meat. His land is managed by an investment team optimizing for returns. And a congressman had to formally demand he even explain himself. Jeremy Clarkson owns 1,000 acres and is covered in mud trying to make it work. Kaleb Cooper started at 50 pence an hour and is building toward owning a farm through nothing but his own labor. 275,000 acres versus 1,000. But only one side of that equation actually farms. Only one side knows the weight of a bad harvest. Only one side respects the soil enough to put their own hands in it. And that, in the end, is the whole story. Owning the land is not the same as working it. It never has been. Here's your comment. Whether you're watching from Britain, America, Canada, Australia, or anywhere else, tell us below. Should there be a limit on how much farmland one person can own? Bill Gates says there's no grand scheme. The farmers locked out of the land aren't so sure. Drop your country and your answer in the comments, because this channel wants to know how many of you think the soil should belong to the people who work it, not the people who simply buy it. We are past 13,000 subscribers now and growing every week, because more and more of you understand that this is the real story of our time. Who owns the soil? Who works it? And what happens to a society when those two things drift apart? This channel investigates the empires nobody else will touch. The billionaires, the royals, the corporations, and the ordinary farmers fighting to survive against all of them. If that's what you want to keep watching, hit subscribe. And tell me in the comments, who should we investigate next? Drop the name below, and it might be the next video. Right. That's it. See you in the next one.